are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, February 5th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. As always, before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get right into what we are going to talk about for today. So we'll start off the show. I'll give you my thoughts on the Pro Bowl, and also talk about the start of Super Bowl week, as we're narrowing it down. Media week is this week as well. So obviously we'll talk about that, with some of the players' interviews throughout the week. So, we'll get into that. Really exciting stuff coming up. Then in the second part of the show, I'll talk about an article that I was reading on Bleacher Report talking about why Belichick didn't get a job this year. Going into the 2024 season, so we'll get into that. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about some other coaching changes, also talking about Kliff Kingsbury backing out of the Raiders' offensive coordinator job and joining the Washington Commanders instead, so I'll get into that. And then in the final part of the show, another thing I saw is the Bears might be keeping the number 1 overall pick and not trading it. So what does that mean? What does that mean for Justin Fields? So we'll get into that in the final part of the show. So let's get right into the first topic, which is talking about the Pro Bowl and the start of Super Bowl week. So I'll be honest, did not watch the Pro Bowl. Did not watch it. Now you're probably saying, well, why are you giving your thoughts on it? Well, looking at social media and looking at, some of the highlights and, what happened. It seems like a lot of people like this new format. And the flag football game, it was, again, like the Pro Bowl wasn't about defense, but, it was a very high-scoring game. Final score was 64-59. The NFC got the win. Baker Mayfield, I saw, won the offensive player of the game. He went 9 of 13 for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I'd love to see that. And also Eli Manning now has beaten Peyton Manning 2 years in a row since they started this new format. But, with that combined with the skills challenge, it's, the NFL's trying to keep fans engaged. And I guess, for what I'm seeing on social media, it seems like a lot of people like this format. So I guess you ride with it. I love that it's Peyton Manning and Eli Manning coaching the conferences. And let's be honest. The Pro Bowl, how it was the traditional way, there were a couple of years where it was fun. I thought when they did the fantasy draft and you had 2 Hall of Famers, coaching both sides, I thought that was cool. But, again, they stopped doing that. Then they went back to the traditional way, and it's just boring, So, it's something different, and you know what? It's been getting positive feedback, But again, not my taste. I don't really. I was out yesterday, so I wasn't locked into this, but I thought just giving my thoughts on it from what I saw. But, yeah, listen, if the players like it, that's the other thing, too. The players seem to enjoy it. So I guess, they got to keep rocking with this. And, but again, it's not something – again, I was out yesterday. I mean, I probably would have flipped it on if, it was, if I was home. But, I'm not locked into it because, it's got no meaning. Um, but, yeah, I mean, listen, if, like I said, if the players like it, I guess you got to keep riding with it. So, um, yeah, so Pro Bowl is done, and now we move to Super Bowl week. And listen, I'm excited. I'm excited. I know a lot of people are complaining, which is going to happen. But listen, at the end of the day, I'm hoping it's a good game. That's really what it comes down to. But yeah, both teams, they arrived in Vegas. A couple of things to talk about. I know Travis Kelce, he was praising George Kittle, saying that he was the best tight end in the game, which a lot of people I know were saying, like, that's, you're just saying that you think you're the best tight end, but you're not saying it. But you know what? These are two of the best tight ends in the NFL. Top 5 tight ends in the NFL. Top 3, if, obviously George Kittle actually was relatively healthy this year. I mean, he's been banged up a lot over the course of his career. Travis Kelce was banged up this year, but, he gutted it out. It's nice that we still have them, playing in the league, of course. Because obviously when Gronk retired, tight end university took a big hit. But, you got those two guys, and you also got, obviously, Sam Laporta with the Lions now, who had a great rookie season. Mark Andrews as well when he's healthy. T.J. Hawkinson. There's a lot of good tight ends in the NFL, and these are the top top 3. Some of the top 3 right here, Kelce and Kittle. Talking about that. Like I said, we're going to touch upon media week when these these players are getting interviewed and what they have to say. Obviously I want to save till the end of the week to preview the game. I mean, it's hard to do that because we've had like 2 weeks now to talk about it. But yeah, I mean, we're going to keep talking about it because once we get to the off season, then it's all off season stuff. So again, I'm excited for this game. I'm hoping it's good. I'm just a little nervous just because of how the 49ers have started off on offense these last 2 weeks. Also, actually, another thing I saw, Steve Wilkes was not happy with the performance of the defense. And him and Kyle Shanahan talking about the effort. And, people point to the Jahmyr Gibbs rushing touchdown in the championship game where Chase Young looked like he was, like, not trying on that play. Didn't even make an effort to try to tackle Jahmyr Gibbs. Listen, you're not going to be able to do that against the Chiefs. Like, I really do think that if the 49ers fall behind against the Chiefs, I don't think they're coming back. Now, the last couple of weeks, the first 2 playoff games, they've proved us wrong. Came back against the Packers, and then you came back from an even bigger deficit against the Lions. But against the Chiefs, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. Because the Chiefs really don't blow leads. Now, the one lead I think about is the championship game from a couple years ago when they lost to Joe Burrow in Arrowhead. But I don't think they're going to do that. So the 49ers, they have to, and I think they'll be prepared for this game. It's going to be tough to stop Mahomes, because if they can't get pressure, which is something that's kind of been a problem, and they were talking about it on the broadcast during the championship game. Mahomes is going to pick them apart because their secondary is not that good, So it's really important that they get pressure and they try to get after him. Because look at the Ravens defense. They did get to him later in the game, but it's hard. It's hard to get Mahomes down. So they're gonna have to get him off his spot somehow. So we'll see. I mean, last year they played against him and Mahomes threw for over 400 yards. So it is going to be a tough game. That's getting pressure is a must in this game for the Niners. But they also have to, again, they can't afford to get off to a slow start in this game on offense. They get the ball first, go right down the field and score a touchdown. Set the tone. Obviously the Eagles did that last year. They scored a touchdown on their first drive, and then the Chiefs answered right back. So we'll see. I mean, you got to rely on Christian McCaffrey. The Chiefs are not the best at stopping the run, so Christian McCaffrey's going to have to play a role. Obviously use Deebo Samuel coming out of the backfield as well. Um, you know, there's a lot of things that the Niners are going to have to do because it's not going to be easy. You're facing the best quarterback in the NFL, and you're facing the defending champs with an even better defense. That's what worries me is the Chiefs' defense is even better, and they could definitely get Purdy off of his spot and force him into a turnover. I'm more worried about Purdy, turning the ball over as opposed to Mahomes, which is not crazy to say, but yeah, I don't think Mahomes hasn't had a pick in these playoffs. I don't think. Yeah, no, I think he hasn't turned the ball over once. So I mean, the Chiefs have as a team, but he hasn't himself. I don't believe. So we'll see what happens in this game. But Purdy against this Chiefs defense is going to be interesting. But I just hope it's a good game. And like I said, I've been saying, I want the Niners to win. But the way the Chiefs have been playing right now, it's hard to say that the Niners are going to win here. But it would get a huge thing off of Kyle Shanahan's back because of the previous 2 Super Bowls that he's been a part of, had double-digit leads, lost both of them, lost to Brady and Mahomes. And people are saying how the Niners' defense from 2019 was better. But you still have a majority of those players from that Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens. But look at the Chiefs. They're different. They don't have Tyreek Hill. They're not going to be running that wasp play, and Mahomes is going to throw a Hail Mary basically on 3rd and 15. He doesn't have a Tyreek Hill. Now, I will say the receivers, they've been playing well. And also, so I guess Kadarius Toney was saying that they kind of altered his Instagram Live to make it seem like he was, talking negative about the Chiefs. I mean, I don't really know. I'd have to look into it. But I did see that he is practicing. And he did make a big play in the Super Bowl last year. He ran back the punt return, set up a touchdown. I think it was his touchdown. Because I know Sky Moore also scored a touchdown. But for me, I think Kadarius Toney should not play in this game because he's responsible for some losses this year. And he's also responsible for some Mahomes interceptions. One that was returned for a pick 6 the first week of the regular season. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe they activate him, but he doesn't really see the field that much. I don't know. The Chiefs have been in such a groove. You would think that maybe you should just not play in this game. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, listen, Isaiah Pacheco, he's going to have a big role in this game because you look at the Niners' run defense and how it's been the last 2 weeks. The Lions, they went away. They got away from the run, and I think if they continued with that, kept pounding the rock, maybe it would have been a different outcome. But for whatever reason, they just they stopped running it. But them and the Packers ran the ball effectively against the Niners. And I'm like, listen, the Lions, they had Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. They're going to want to run the football, and I think they're going to do it well. And they did in the first half. And then, again, it disappeared. And then, well, now you got the Chiefs and Isaiah Pacheco now being more involved in this offense. The Chiefs' offense being different this year. Pacheco's going to get the rock a ton of times, and I think he's going to find success against the Niners' run defense. So that's going to be a key in this game as well. And I think both the running backs will score a touchdown here, which is not really that, again, not that crazy to say, but it just, I mean, especially with McCaffrey, I mean, it's like a lock for him to score a touchdown every week. And Pacheco, he has scored a touchdown in every playoff game so far. So, right. Yeah, I think he also scored against the Dolphins. So, again, we'll just have to wait and see. But, again, we're at the start of Super Bowl week. Like I said, we'll talk about when the players meet with the media, things they have to say. So, with that being said, though, we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we'll talk about an article that I was reading on why exactly Bill Belichick did not get a coaching job for the 2024 season. So that is what we'll do when we come back from our first break of the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about Bill Belichick once again. Again, an article I was reading on Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report has become like my best friend when it comes to, coming up with topics lately. Because they have a lot of stuff on their site. But this was just a recent article, just talking about why Belichick didn't get a job. This comes from also The Athletic as well. They reference The Athletic here. So, I mean, again, it's really more stuff that we've talked about. We've covered this stuff. But, again, this is just another, I don't know what I was trying to say there. But, yeah, you get it. This is just more to the story is what I was trying to say. So, yeah, I mean, according to The Athletic, again, it runs deeper than the mere fact that he's about to turn 72. And, yeah, it really just goes into the fact that Belichick, was used to, being in charge and having more of a role as opposed to just being a head coach, being the general manager, drafting the players. And, it just also apparently he had a frosty, as it says here, a frosty relationship with Atlanta president Rich McKay. And that was a concern for the Falcons. Because, again, Belichick had a couple of interviews with them. But it just, and really it's about the concern over how the former Patriots coach would fit into the teams. Thing here. So, that's really what it comes down to. And then sources with multiple teams that just hired new head coaches expressed varying degrees of relief Belichick wasn't joining their team. Some were concerned Belichick would overhaul the leadership structure and the order of command. So, yeah, I mean, again, that goes back to what we were talking about, the power struggle. That they just did not want Belichick to, have the, be in control. And yeah, I mean, because again, you're impacting people's jobs, and you don't want to, you don't want to lose your job. If you bring in, Belichick, who, has been the general manager for the Patriots essentially. Also, teams across the league were also concerned by how the defensively focused Belichick managed the Patriots' offense during his final seasons in New England. Yeah, I mean, listen, look, after McDaniels left, you bring in, which was Mac Jones' best year. You bring in Joe Judge and Matt Patricia to be your offensive coordinators. When Joe Judge is a special teams guy and Matt Patricia was a defensive guy. And then you bring in Bill O'Brien, you bring him back, and again, the offense just was just bad this year. Also, one concern also was reportedly the coach's fractured relationship with quarterback Mac Jones. Belichick stopped speaking to Jones following his benching in Week 12 of the 2023 campaign, according to a Thursday report from Mass Live's Mark Daniels. I mean, it seemed like that relationship was just not the best. I mean, Mac Jones has gotten benched, and he had to bring him back in. I mean, it was a mess. Again, the Patriots, ever since Tom Brady left, it just was a downward spiral from there for the Pats. And the quarterback position just it wasn't good. Just was not good. Another was Belichick's hiring of Matt Patricia, who held extensive experience. Oh, yeah, I just said this. They brought him in to be their offensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, when he was a defensive guy. But again, that was just one of Belichick's guys, and, he wanted to bring him back. So Robert Kraft might have been swayed to keep Belichick if the head coach had committed to changing certain strategies with the personnel development or department, roster construction, and his offensive vision. However, Belichick wouldn't bend that far. Belichick could still be interested in returning to the NFL if one of those, if certain spots open up in 2025. Yeah, I mean, it really does, boggle my mind that he just did not get a job. But I understand. It makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, again, if you're not and I've been saying this, if you're not willing to adapt, then it's going to be hard for you to find a job. And if that's the case, if he does not want to adapt and take a back seat and, just be the head coach instead of, being in charge of other things, including drafting play, obviously you'll be a part of those conversations, but, you're not going to be the guy that has the final say. It still is wild that he's not going to be coaching. I mean, the Commanders, they bring in Dan Quinn. I mean, I feel like I take Belichick over Dan Quinn, but I get it because you draft a young quarterback. I mean, do you want Belichick to be the guy to, bring him along after what just happened with Mac Jones? So I get that. Although I think there probably would have been somebody else to bring in, better than Dan Quinn, even if it wasn't Belichick. But that hire still just does not make sense to me. But especially because Dan Quinn was in their own division, and how the Cowboys defense performed against the Packers. I don't understand why they thought that was a good idea, but that's what they decided to do. So, But I mean, it's the other thing the article also says is just there's head coaching jobs that open up every single year. So there's going to be. I mean, Belichick's going to get an interview next year, I would imagine. But I feel like maybe this year off might be a good thing for him because maybe he can reflect and just say, maybe I do got to take a step back. But, but again, it's you don't know for sure because he could sit there and say, no, I'm not changing who I am. I want to be in charge. And, I'm not changing. I'm not adapting. But, I mean, you're going to have to. Because then you might end up the same way you did this time, is with no coaching job. But I mean, listen, I take him as a defensive coordinator for the Giants, absolutely. But I mean, he's not going to want to do that. He wants to be a head coach, and I mean, I think he deserves that because the success that he's had over the course of his career. Although people are going to just talk about how Tom Brady was responsible for it, which, again, doesn't look good after Brady leaves and, the Patriots have not won a playoff game. And they just, again, went in the downward spiral, and Brady went on and won a Super Bowl. So, Yeah, I mean, really, it's just it all comes down to Belichick not wanting to change and just how, these last couple of years went in New England. Because if the Patriots didn't skip a beat and they were making the playoffs and they were at least winning playoff games, not necessarily winning Super Bowls, but at least being successful in the regular season, and somehow Belichick ended up leaving on a better note, then yeah, he would probably get a job right now. But I get it. And this is conversations that I've had with obviously people a part of the GSMC Sports Network, is just the fact that not only, I mean, in the article it talks about how age isn't the only factor, but yeah, I mean, age does play a role into it. I mean, you go to the Commanders, a team that's rebuilding, it's going to take a few years to you hope to be competitive, and if that's not the case, I mean, again, you're wasting time. You want to go to a team that's established. That's why I said the Chargers could have been a good fit, because of course having Herbert, and I mean, obviously the cap situation is not good. But again, like if they were able to get that under control and you're able to keep most of the players, that'd be a good fit. I know people were obviously talking about Dallas and Philadelphia, but they're keeping Sirianni, the Eagles, they're keeping McCarthy, and this is kind of this might be his last year, coming up with the Cowboys, because it's his final year of his contract. And I mean, I expect more of the same from the Cowboys. I don't expect them to do anything next year. I mean, I expect them to make the playoffs, but that's about it. Because the conference is going to be better, and with McCarthy, I just don't see him as the guy for them. So, I mean, I'm hoping that Belichick doesn't go to one of those two teams. I mean, depending on what happens with the Eagles too. But I mean, also the Giants. I mean, we'll see what happens with Dable. But yeah, again, it's going to be very strange not seeing Belichick on the sidelines. I thought he would be a lock to get another job just because of the resume and just the fact that it's Bill Belichick. But no, people were not interested. Well, I mean, people were interested, but they weren't interested enough to say, that's our guy, we're going to hire him. But I don't know, the way some of these franchises have been for a while, like you would think, let's just forget it. We're just gonna do this. We're just gonna bring him in, try to change the team, get us out of this cycle that we've been in. But no, I guess a lot of these teams are thinking the same way. They just think it didn't really work out well towards the end in New England. The team declined. And, he's going to want to be in control. And a lot of teams, that turned off a lot of teams. So, again, there's going to be head coaching jobs that will open up, next offseason. And Belichick it will be a part of those conversations unless, he just decides, I'm done, I'm retiring. But he still wants to coach. So, we'll see. Maybe this time off will be a good thing for him to reflect and say, you know what, I got to take a step back, but who knows? I think he still deserves a job. And if it doesn't work out, if he goes to another team and it just is a disaster, like towards the end of New England, then that's it. But I think he still deserves another chance. So, we'll just have to wait. We got to wait. Got to wait a whole nother year. Unless, again, somehow a coach just ends up leaving and, they pick up Belichick. I don't know. But I feel like that would have happened already. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about this. Let me know what you guys think about the whole Belichick situation. Because, again, I mean, I'm surprised that he has not, I mean, this is something we'll talk about, in the offseason, but I would imagine. But it's just, again, it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird next year not seeing him on a sideline. But, so when we come back from our second break of the show, we'll talk about Kliff Kingsbury backing out of the Raiders job and joining the Commanders. We'll talk about some other coaching hires as well because, there's still coordinator jobs that needed to be filled. So we'll get into that when we come back from our second break of the show. But before I get into that, actually, I almost jumped ahead. Just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, like I said, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will then talk about, like I said, we'll talk about Kingsbury backing out of the Raiders job and joining the Commanders, as well as talking about some of the other coaching hires as well. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows. Available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about Kliff Kingsbury backing out of the Raiders job, joining the Commanders, and, some of the other coaching hires that happened as well. So, yeah, Kingsbury was supposed to join the Raiders, be their next OC, but then he backed out of the job. So then the Raiders they ended up hiring Luke Getsky to be their next offensive coordinator, and he was the OC the last 2 seasons with the Bears. The Bears fired him in January. So, I mean, again, I don't really know much about a lot of these coordinators. I know the Bears, they kind of, towards the end of the season, they looked like a much better team. I mean, starting off the year, they just looked so flat. I mean, Justin Fields was talking about, how he felt like he was a robot out there in the beginning, and obviously he got hurt. You had Tyson Bagent playing a couple of games, during the year. But then once Fields came back, the offense looked better. They almost beat the Lions twice. I mean, the second time they really did beat them down. And they looked like a different team. And with the Raiders, it's going to be different because, we'll see what they end up doing at quarterback. But the Raiders, they played much better once they switched over to Antonio Pierce after they let go of Josh McDaniels. So, we'll see what ends up happening at the quarterback position because I don't think Aiden O'Connell is the answer. It's definitely not going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. So we'll see what the Raiders end up doing there. That was a bad contract. And I feel bad for Jimmy Garoppolo. I just feel like injuries have kind of, really impacted his career. And it just didn't help him this year. And also turning the ball over. The offense just was not clicking with him. It's not like Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell was definitely better. But again, he was more of a game manager for them this year. But listen, the Raiders, they, bring back Josh Jacobs or they let him go and let Zamir White maybe take over the lead role because we saw what he looked like, when Jacobs was out. You still got Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. They got weapons on this team. So, they just got to figure out the quarterback position. But, yeah, it's really interesting with Kingsbury. He backs out of the Raiders job. Like, the contract negotiations fell through. Because, they announced the deal. Well, they announced that he was going to the Raiders, but it's like the deal wasn't done yet. But it seemed like, that it was going to end up happening. And then he just ended up leaving and joining the Commanders. He was a part of he was a offensive analyst, it says here, with USC. I thought it was, I guess, offensive analyst, offensive coordinator. So working with Caleb Williams, obviously. And Adam Schefter did tweet, about, let the, the theories, begin, or the speculation begin on, the fact that Kingsbury joins Washington. Washington has the number 2 pick in the draft. And obviously Caleb Williams congratulated him on his job in Washington. Can Washington somehow end up with Caleb Williams? Well, when we get into our next segment, that might not be the case because the Bears, they apparently are going to stick. They're going to stay at the number 1 pick. So that might mean, they could take him, or maybe they surprise everybody and they take somebody else. But that's where we're at right now. Listen, I mean, Kliff Kingsbury, he's worked with Caleb Williams. He's worked with Patrick Mahomes back with Texas Tech. He's worked with Kyler Murray. So we'll see now him coming over to Washington, what they end up doing at quarterback, who they end up bringing in. But it's just a very interesting situation because, again, you thought, okay, he's going to be with the Raiders. Then all of a sudden he just decides, I'm just going to back out. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal was with that. Also, some other coordinator news. So you had the Saints. They hired Kliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator. He is the son of former Broncos and Texans head coach Gary Kubiak. Obviously, Kubiak was a part of the Super Bowl 50 winning Denver Broncos. He spent this season as the 49ers passing game coordinator under Kyle Shanahan, which obviously, he's going to continue to do that until after the Super Bowl. And he has OC experience from his time with the Vikings in 2021. Kubiak was Minnesota's QB coach from 2019 to 2020 and served as the Broncos passing game coordinator under Nathaniel Hackett in 2022. The Saints dismissed Pete Carmichael after the 2023 season. And it mentions it here how Derek Carr and the offense actually finally started to click towards the end of the season. So it's up to Kubiak to kind of, take these last few games that the Saints had and just get that consistency that, like I was saying, the Saints were inconsistent all year. And then again, they finally clicked at the end of the year, but again, it was too late. They missed the playoffs. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, you got to see how it goes. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's a good hire or a bad hire. I mean, listen, you're working with Kyle Shanahan. So I mean, that has to, that has to be a good thing, right? But we'll see. I mean, but I know Saints fans, they really wanted Carmichael out, just because, again, how rough the season was. So also some other coordinator news. So the Dolphins, they hired Anthony Weaver to be their next defensive coordinator. So he spent the past 2 seasons on the Ravens staff, starting out as the team's defensive lines coach before picking up the associate head coach title this past season. He was a candidate for the Commanders' head coaching job, and now will get his first chance as defensive play caller, as obviously Vic Fangio left to, be the Eagles' defensive coordinator. Weaver coached under Bill O'Brien from 2016 to 2020 and had a 7-year playing career with the Ravens and the Texans from 2002 to 2008. So that's a little bit of his background. Obviously talked about Luke Getsky as well. Was there any other ones? Yeah, I talked about the other ones from last week that I see here. But, yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But, yeah, Kingsbury was kind of the big topic of the segment here. Also, other random news here. So I saw that Le'Veon Bell wants to come back wants to make another comeback to the NFL. I didn't want to do. I didn't know if I was going to do that as its own segment, but I thought I would just touch upon it here. He's like, and there's only one team he's going to play for, and he said he would only come back to play with Mike Tomlin. Now, here's the thing. You say you want to come back, but the team also has to want you to come back. I think with the Steelers right now, and also the fact that you've been out of the league for a few years, and the last couple of years you were in the league, I mean, you really didn't have an impact. I think the last team he was on was the Ravens, right? I think that was the last team he was on, because he was on Tampa, he was on the Chiefs. Yeah, he bounced around after Pittsburgh. I mean, the worst thing Le'Veon ever did was hold out for the year, because he came back to the Jets and it just didn't work out. it just did not work out. Well, also Adam Gase didn't want Le'Veon Bell. And then he got hurt, and it just his career fell off. I mean, he was one of the best running backs in the NFL. But I mean, now how old is Le'Veon now? Gotta look it up here. I mean, again, he was one of the best running backs in the NFL for a while, but he fell off. No, he's 31. I mean, again, that's old for a running back, but even ESPN posted Le'Veon Bell to attempt NFL return, Steelers reunion. Yeah, I mean, he regrets it. He regrets what he did. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people knew he was going to regret it because, it just did not pan out. And that Steelers offense was special. The Killer Bees. That was a great offense. I mean, I was watching some Antonio Brown highlights recently. I mean, that offense was really good. It's just they when you got to the playoffs, they were playoff games they just did not show up for. Like the Jaguars game. I mean, they lost, 45-42 the final score of that game was. And then, of course, you got beat up by the Patriots, And then there were some years where they didn't make it. But, they lost to the Ravens one year, the Broncos. Yeah, it just didn't pan out for them, And now he wants to come back. I mean, listen, the Steelers, they got Najee Harris, they got Jalen Warren. I mean, what's the role you're going to have on the team? I mean, unless you want to convert to receiver, but I mean, it's I don't see it happening. I don't know. I mean, he says he's going to work out, but I don't know. It's whatever at this point. I mean, he was boxing for a little bit too, right? It's a shame. It's a shame. And again, he regrets it now, but, I mean, listen, I understand, like, players want to get paid, but at the same time, it's like, he held out for a whole year, and look what ended up happening, it just, it didn't work out for him, so, but I just wanted to mention that, because I thought that was interesting, but I don't know if it's going to lead to anything. I mean, again, he's 31, I mean, that's old for a running back, you're not going to see these Frank Gores, these Adrian Petersons, these Marshawn Lynches. That's over, I mean, Derrick Henry's 30, so, I mean, I think, he's starting to decline a little bit, but, I think he's still got some juice left. It's just you need to have another running back that complements him, He can't just be the guy that's going to take the ball, 25 plus times, 25 carries. You got to have somebody that can balance that out. But yeah, I mean that's just how the game is now. And also again, Le'Veon, after he left the Steelers, I mean it just I mean with the Jets, I mean here and there, but not that there wasn't. He never really had consistency there. And then of course, then he goes to the Chiefs. I mean he didn't really do much. The Bucs. I'm surprised to even remember he was on the Bucs. And then same thing with the Ravens. I think he scored a touchdown with the Ravens, but yeah, it just his career flamed out pretty quickly. But again, it all goes back to him holding out. So, but yeah, so this segment actually flew by. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about basically everything I talked about. The Kingsbury stuff. Again, going back to that, I mean, the Commanders, in order to get Caleb Williams, I mean, probably going to have to trade up because it seems like, like what we're going to talk about in the next segment, that the Bears might be taking a quarterback then. And we might be moving off of Fields. They might be moving off of Fields. So where's Justin Fields now going to end up? If he ends up getting traded. A lot of speculation, and of course we'll talk about all this stuff in the offseason because again, this is it. This is the final game of the year, and then it's now what after that. But obviously there's a lot of stuff to talk about, the draft and free agency coming up, things like that. But yeah, again we're winding down here, and But that's what happens with the NFL. It just goes, it goes so fast. It goes so fast. And here we are once again. So with that, we're going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we are going to talk about the Bears keeping the number 1 overall pick, ? Because, again, that was something that I saw that I wanted to touch upon. So that is what we will do when we come back from our final break of the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to talk about the Bears keeping the number 1 overall pick, supposedly. So again, so there are reports out there that the Bears could be keeping the number 1 pick and drafting Caleb Williams. So this comes from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. He reported that there is a belief that at the Senior Bowl that the Bears may use the number 1 overall pick potentially on USC's Caleb Williams, and teams are believed that the Bears might trade Fields and use the number 1 pick on a quarterback. Now again, that just really opens up the door to other possibilities, like where could Fields go? Now you look at the Falcons as a team that needs a quarterback. Could that be the team that gets Fields? I mean, even if, maybe the Commanders say, hey, we'll take Fields. But I know it's going to take a lot. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the package will be. But, it's definitely going to take some assets to get Fields. And it talks about the chemistry that he developed with DJ Moore. I mean, you also look at the kind of season Cole Kmet had as well. The Bears finished the season 5-3 in their final 8 games. They had a chance to maybe make the playoffs, but I didn't think it was going to happen. And it also talks about, again, it's a rare opportunity for the team with the 7-10 record. And obviously they got they traded their pick with the Panthers. So the Panthers could get Bryce Young, because last year they had the number 1 overall pick the previous season, and the Bears ended up getting DJ Moore out of that. But now they're in position again because the Panthers finished with the worst record in the NFL. So again, they could be taking a little bit of a risk because, again, like you trade away Fields, you bring in a new quarterback. What if that doesn't? I mean, it's not like Fields was leading them to the promised land, but again, they finished 5-3 to finish off the season. And, again, it talks about the chemistry that he was developing with DJ Moore. I mean, they looked pretty good together. And obviously Cole Kmet, the running game, I thought was pretty good at times this year. They got pieces, and, it's you could also use that to trade down and get more assets and, surround Justin Fields with more talent. But if they want to take a rookie quarterback, they can also do that. The Bears also have the number 9 overall pick. And there's also speculation about them getting a wide receiver, such as Washington's Rome Odunze. And that to go along with DJ Moore, with Cole Kmet, and also the rookie quarterback, or if they keep Fields again. So, yeah, I mean, only time will tell. We'll see what ends up happening. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a tough call. It is. And obviously Bears fans are desperate for something because, they're another team that's been going in a circle, and they, when's the last time? Yeah, the last time they made the playoffs was 2020. Yeah, when they lost to the Saints. But again, they kind of just like backed into that. I mean, they got in, I think, as the 7th seed. I mean, 2018, when you had the first year Khalil Mack, that was the year to do something because their defense was really good that year, and Trubisky was decent, but I don't think you weren't winning the Super Bowl with Mitch Trubisky as your quarterback. And now look where Trubisky is. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be one of the hottest topics of the offseason is, unless like a team comes in and just blows the Bears away with an offer, they probably keep this pick and, yeah, they end up moving off of Fields. I mean, again, because then you get more assets for Fields, and, you take a quarterback and then if they end up taking another receiver. Because, I mean, outside of DJ Moore, I mean, Darnell Mooney you thought was going to be, he was going to take another step. He kind of took a step back this year. I mean, he really didn't. What kind of actually? Let's look at Mooney's stats. So Darnell Mooney's stats for the 2023 season. So he only finished with 414 yards, 31 receptions, and 1 touchdown. Yeah, I mean, that's not good. I mean, you thought Mooney was going to be good his first couple of seasons, but I mean, and he still can be good. It's just maybe this is just not the right fit for him. Maybe this is another guy the Bears move off of, and he can go somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, the Bears, again, you can get more assets by trading Fields. If they go quarterback, wide receiver, I mean, again, you look at how the defense played towards the end of the year, too. I mean, trading for Montez Sweat, I mean, that really panned out for him, And again, Eberflus is more of a, right? He's more of a defensive guy. I mean, we'll see. But, I mean, the Bears, they have a foundation. It's just, again, now you got to figure out what you're going to do at quarterback. This is big for them. This is a big offseason for them. Because if they do end up trading Fields, got to hit the right quarterback, get the right quarterback in place. Again, if they want to add another weapon, go ahead and do that. Because, again, outside of DJ Moore, it's a question mark, in terms of their receiver. Oh, that's what I was going to look at, the Bears' depth chart. Because I know they had Darnell Mooney. Or I just said, no, I meant Byron Pringle, I know, was on the team. Let's see. So outside of DJ Moore, you had Mooney, Inquinimia St. Brown, Trent Taylor, Colin Johnston. Yeah, I mean, probably need another receiver. Let's see, Tyler Scott, Velus Jones. I mean, you could probably use another weapon, another pass catcher. I mean, they go ahead and they draft Roma Dunze from Washington. I mean, that definitely would be a good pick. I mean, I guess that's probably what they end up doing. You take quarterback and then try to get another receiver. So, and then you got to look at also, Washington. I mean, you bring in Kliff Kingsbury. I guess they're hoping that, the Bears maybe take Drake May instead, or take somebody else. But I mean, I guess that's where Caleb Williams wants to go. He wants to go and play with Kliff Kingsbury, but that might not necessarily happen. I mean, again, like we see this now, but the Bears can end up just keeping Fields and trading the pick. But yeah, I mean, listen, it doesn't come often. That they've had the number 1 pick now 2 years in a row, and then again, it was also because the Panthers traded with them. But yeah, I mean, listen, if they want to reset it and bring in Caleb Williams, because the other thing too is like you'd eventually have to pay Fields. If you get Caleb Williams, the clock resets, and you got him on a rookie contract for for 5 years. So if you pick up that fifth option, so yeah, I guess that's another thing from a financial standpoint too. So, I mean, either way, I mean, again, they finished the season strong, so for them, you're hoping that they carry that momentum into next season. But again, talking about resetting the clock, it's a new season. Then you could start off slow again, and you end up in the same spot you did this year. That's just how it works sometimes. So again, only time will tell what ends up happening. But I mean, either way, you trade Fields, you trade the number 1 pick, you're gonna get a bunch of assets. So and the Bears, they're further along than some of these other teams that are trying to rebuild. So the Bears are looking to make the playoffs. Even if they do have a rookie quarterback. I mean, this team should still be looking to try to make the playoffs because, the defense, again, was playing better last year. You got DJ Moore, you got Cole Kmet. You draft another wide receiver, the running game with Herbert, Roshan Johnson. Unless maybe they draft another running back because I know they had Deontay Foreman, but I don't know. They're probably not going to keep him. I don't know what his contract situation was, but or an offensive line too. I mean, again, can never have too many offensive linemen either. So, yeah, I mean, this team is going to look to contend for a playoff spot. So, I mean, even with the rookie quarterback, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, this is something that we will talk about a lot in the coming months with the draft, with mock drafts and things like that, and also free agency. Free agency also impacts what you end up doing in the draft as well. But like I said, once we get through the Super Bowl, then that's what it is. It's going to be off season stuff from here on out, and then we go from there. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think. What should the Bears end up doing? Should they keep the number 1 pick, or they should, roll with Justin Fields and, maybe trade and get some more assets, trade down. But it seems like I guess they're gonna keep it, and they're gonna trade for a quarterback. They're gonna draft a quarterback and trade Fields. So, But again, like you gotta hit the pick though, because if you don't, I mean, the Bears fans are gonna lose it. They are gonna absolutely lose it. But that division is gonna be very competitive next year. Because we'll see what the Vikings end up doing at quarterback if they keep Cousins. You got the Lions, the Packers, how they finished off the season, and I know Bears fans are complaining because now they got to deal with Jordan Love. You go from Favre to Rodgers and now to Jordan Love. I mean, it just seems like it's never gonna end for Bears fans. That division is going to be good. That division is going to be fun to watch. So especially you get hopefully a healthy Kirk Cousins back. If the Vikings do bring him back, because it's still up in the air, I think, on whether they want to. I mean, I think they want to, but again, like it's he's coming off an Achilles injury, so yeah, I mean that's something to keep an eye on, but. That division will be a lot of fun. Those games will be a lot of fun to watch. They'll definitely be in the primetime slots. So we'll see. But again, this is something that we are going to talk about a lot in the off season, and again, only time will tell. I mean, the draft is still long ways away right now, but we still got a couple of months or a few months, before we get to it, and then, then that's when we will find out what they end up doing. I mean, we'll see what happens in the off season. I mean, Fields could get traded before the draft. I mean, we've seen, players get traded during the draft. I mean, A.J. Brown, I think Marquise Brown as well was traded as well. Again, we got some time before then, and it's Super Bowl week, so obviously the main focus is going to be on that. And then once that's over, then we'll get into more off-season stuff as well. But, I thank you guys for tuning in. Of course, we'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And, again, don't have a plan as to what... there'll be more Super Bowl stuff, of course. And other things as well, things that pop up. But, so until then, I am Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.